Vanessa from Crafty Gemini Creates, and in this video tutorial I'm going to teach you how to make this really cute arm knit springtime scarf. We're going to keep it nice and thin for the springtime, but there's so many different ways that you can customize and make this. First, the supplies that you're going to need. This is actually one of my favorite yarns to use. It's called Unique by Lion Brand Yarns, and you can see a huge variety of gorgeous colors. It's kind of like a striping yarn that's also variegated. It's a double twist, and you can see that in every strand there's two different colors, nice contrasting colors going together. The one that I used here is called Grapevine, and the one that we're going to use for the tutorial is actually called Cornucopia. We're going to use this one because it's brighter. It'll show up better on camera, but there's a lot of different options for you to choose from. And remember that we always include a link for you in the description box below on where you can find the different yarn options that we have here to use in making the same project I am, okay? Aside from the yarn, all you're gonna need is really a pair of scissors and your arms. Now, I will start off by telling you that this will probably take you, to make it as thin as this one, if it's your first time, maybe 30 minutes, 30, 40 minutes or so. So give yourself, I would say, to be generous, an hour. Make sure you go to the bathroom, get yourself a drink of water, because once you start loading up these stitches on your arms, you really don't want to have to take them off and try to rig something up to hold it in place to then return to the project. I definitely recommend just sitting through and completing the project from beginning to end. And that's how we're going to do it in this video for you, okay? So to get started, I'm going to show you with one of these new skeins. You want to take off the label. And then you want to go over to either end. I'm coming over here to this end, and I see that there's no strand coming out. So let me flip it over to the other one. And if I open this one up, you can see that this little strand is coming out, and that's the one that you want to pull. You see how that comes apart? And then we're going to be using it from the outside, okay? There's different options, and for different projects, you want to start off with a different end of the yarn. For this one, just peek in both ends, and when you see the one that's sticking out, go ahead and pull it through there, and that's how you're going to start working with your yarn, okay? So to get started, I am going to pull out 2 arms length. So I'm holding it in one hand, we're coming here, and another one. And this is just going to give us some extra slack for casting on our stitches, and you'll have a little bit at the end to weave the 2 ends together if you want to make it a cowl or infinity scarf shape like this one, okay? So once we have that, we're going to create our slip knot. Now, if you don't crochet or you don't knit, I personally don't knit. I find that it's a little too slow for me, so I prefer crochet, but I can definitely do all tons of arm knit projects. So even if you think you don't crochet or you don't knit, you won't be able to do this, don't put that thought in your head, okay? Get yourself the yarn, give it a try. We're gonna offer you some different clips here with slow motion options and things for you to look at, and I think that you really will be able to tackle this really simple project, okay? So a slip knot. I'm holding the thread in my hand here, or the yarn, excuse me, in my hand. I'm going to hold it with my thumb. I'm going to wrap it once around my hand, and when I start to come to the back side of my fingers here, I want to slip it under, okay, and pull it up. Okay, this is the loop I want. I'm slipping out my left hand, and you can see that now I've created a slip knot, and that is how you're going to get started, okay? So let's show you again in slow motion. Okay, so once we have that slip knot, I'm going to put it on my right hand over my right wrist, and I'm just going to tug on the yarn to get it to cinch up, okay? You don't want to have it too loose. And let me put this out. Put your hand in it so that you have the tail going to your left, and the yarn that's coming from your right hand side to be coming off of the skein of yarn. So this is how you want to have it, okay? And now we have that little slip knot right up where my wrist is. I have my tail going here and this one that way. Now you want to get from your left hand your thumb and your pointer finger, and you're going to reach in here. Do you see how I'm doing this? It's kind of like you're hanging the tails in an upside down V, and you're going to come in this way. All right, so let me try and show you here. An upside down V, and I'm just coming into it from underneath right here. And it's hard to show, but I hope you guys can see that. So thumb and pointer, I'm grabbing with the bottom fingers, and I'm coming up here. So it's kind of like you're pulling it back like a slingshot almost, okay? And then this is how we're going to start casting on. We need to cast on 10 stitches, and this is how you do those cast on stitches. Watch my hand because it's a little confusing, and we'll show you in slow motion as well. You see how there's 2 strands here? You're going to come under this one, and I'm going to come through and then under the opposite one here by my pointer finger. So watch my hand. I go under that one and under this one, and I let them go and cinch it up to my wrist on this hand. Again, 2 fingers in, pull them back like a slingshot, under this one and over this one. So under, over. There's another one. So I have 3 on here, right? 1 slip knot and 2 of the cast on stitches that I've done so far. So that's 3, and we're gonna do 10 total. Now when you're putting them on your wrist here, you don't want to have them too super tight, but I find that it does help to have the cast on stitches be a little bit tighter than the next row of stitches that we'll do. Okay. So we have 10, 2, 4, and try to keep these straight so they don't get confusing on you. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. All right, so we have 10. Now you're gonna start doing your actual stitches, okay? So we still have our tail going to the left-hand side, and the right one is the one that's connected to the skein of yarn. Here are my cast on stitches. With that same hand that you have all those cast on stitches, you want to grab the yarn tail that's sticking out that's coming from the skein of yarn. That's called your working yarn. That's where we're pulling our yarn from to make our rows of stitching, and that's the one that we want to grab. So you're going to put that on that hand, and you're going to start. You take off 1 stitch. I'm still holding on to it, and you see what happens now? I kind of have a loop here. That's where you're going to slip your other arm in, and then cinch it up and tighten it. And you always want to take the time to tighten them up. I find that you get nicer, more consistent stitches if you tighten it somewhat. I mean, it's not super snug where I can't pull it off of my wrist, but it's still close enough, or it's tight enough that my hands, you can see how close they are together, okay? So again, the tail that's coming from the working yarn is in the hand that has the cast on stitches. Now I'm going to go to stitch number 2. Roll it off of my wrist. I'm holding this, so we've created a loop here, and I'm putting my other hand in it. Cinch it up. Hold the yarn again on the hand that has the stitches. Pull off the 3rd one. I'm holding onto this loop here, and put my other hand in it and cinch it up, okay? And you can see that once you get the hang of it, you'll start to go super quickly. Just make sure that you have that tail, or not the tail, excuse me, the working yarn that's coming from the skein of yarn has to be in that hand every time before you start to pull off the next stitch. All right, so we're done with our first row of stitching, and you can see that now on my right hand I have no more stitches. We've brought them all over. Those were our cast on stitches and a first row here, and you can see how it's starting to look. What you're knitting is the fabric for the scarf. Okay, so the same thing we've just done on this hand by transferring all the stitches from here to this one, we're now going to repeat it, and it's basically a back and forth. So now all these stitches are going to go from this hand again to this one. And so to do that, remember that the hand that has all the stitches on it is the one that needs to be holding the yarn that's coming from the skein. So the same way we did it on this one, we're going to do it here. This arm has all the stitches. I'm grabbing the tail that's coming from the skein of yarn in this hand. So I'm going to pull the first stitch off. Again, I've created my loop. This is coming to my right hand, and cinch it up to tighten it. Next one. Coming off, I have a loop here. Put that one in. That's 2. Next one. 3. You're going to repeat that, and it's good to count too, even though you know you did 10 stitches. That way you can see if you messed up somewhere. If you don't end up with 10 stitches, you should always end up doing it 10 times from each arm to each one, okay? And you can see that as you start to go, I mean, this really just becomes second nature, because it's the exact same thing. It's just repetition, repetition. All right, so we're done with that next round. And I cinch it up as best I can. And don't be afraid to tug on this, okay? You always can pull it. Pull on the stitching. Nothing's going to happen to it, okay? Tug on it a little bit to get it all to line up, and you can see that we're starting to make our fabric here. So let's continue, again, from this hand now to the other one. And I'm holding the yarn again from the skein on my right hand, lifting off 1 stitch, bringing it over. And you're going to continue to do this until you end up with whatever length of the scarf that you want, okay? I have a really long one that was done, it's maybe about 54 to 60 inches in length, and that one definitely gets doubled up as an infinity scarf or like a big bulkier one. If you want one like the one that I'm wearing, this one only measures about, I think, 34 inches or so. Okay, so you can play around with it. I'll show you at the end of this. Once I work my way through making this scarf for you, I'm going to show you how to sew basically together the ends so that you can put it all together and wear it as a continuous round scarf like that, an infinity scarf or a cowl, depending on the length, right? Okay. So this is done. Let's pull on these stitches a little bit. Okay. And we're going to fast forward this for you here because I'm just going to continue to do the exact same thing over and over again until I get the length that I want. And there's really not a set number of rows to tell you or times to do it, to tell you, because it really depends on how tight or how loose you're making your stitches. It's also going to affect the finished length of it. All right, so here we are. I think that's good enough for me for my last row of stitches. You can see it's nice and long. This one measures probably about 45 inches or so. It's longer than the one that I'm wearing here, okay? But you can see, I love this yarn. It's striping, but then it's also like a variegated, so you get a good variety of color in it. If you make it even longer, you'll go through 2 rounds of the color, and that way you can double it up and make it like a bulkier kind of a spring scarf. That would be cute as well. Now that I'm done, I have all these stitches here. Now we need to figure out how we're going to get these off of here and finish off the edge. So it's called fastening off, and this is what we're going to do. You're going to do the same thing as you normally would do another row, except you're going to stop. We're only going to bring over 2 stitches here. So here, let's do 1. Cinch it up a little bit. And 2. Now, once you have these 2, you can see this was my most recent one that I just did, and this was the one I did first. So you want the one you did first, okay, to come over. Take it off of your hand, and you're just going to let it go, okay? Leave one on. So now I'm going to bring another stitch over. So you're always going to have 2 on here, okay? Again, the one that was already there, the oldest one, is going to come off and over. And instead of you slipping your hand through there, just let it go. Okay? Next one. 1 over. And I just keep pulling on it so I make sure everything is nice and snug. Again, bring this down. The old one comes over and just let it go. Grab your tail that's connected to the yarn skein and tug on it a little bit to cinch that up. Let's bring another one over. Put it on. I have 2. Take the old one off and over and let it go. Then cinch it up. One over like we normally would take a stitch. Old one comes up and over, let it go, cinch it up. Continue to do that until you have no more left. Okay, this is our last one. Lift that one over and let it go. And now, this last one here, leave that loop there, cut yourself a tail, and you're going to put that tail right through the loop and then cinch it to lock in that last one, okay? And this sometimes gets a little tangled up. I kind of just try to spread it out with my hands as best as I can so that when we get to the sewing part, it can all lay nice and flat for us. So now you're not connected to it anymore, okay? Let's move this out of the way. And you can see I'm going to spread this open for you and show you what it looks like. You see how it rolls on itself? It wants to roll. So it's going to be a little bit thinner than the 10 cast on stitches that we did, because that's what it makes it be, really 10 stitches wide. But you can see how nice that fabric that we created is. Okay, when you pull on it, it's going to roll. So it gives you a nice, thin, kind of lightweight springtime scarf. You can finish this off like this. Sometimes, normally when we crochet or knit a project, you want to weave in the ends, okay? But as you can see, this is so airy that really there's no place for you to weave them through because you'll still be able to see the end. So usually what I will do, and some people think this is a no-no, is just tie a really tight little knot anywhere there. Being that it's the same type of thread, it's not going to make a difference. So tie a really tight knot, and then weave a little bit under a few spots that I can, and then snip the thread off. So if you want it to be just like a standalone scarf, you can leave it like that and just finish off both ends that way. And I'll show you here how I do it, because I'll go back and show you how to tie them together to make it a continuous one like this. So you can tighten that up there. And sometimes people will use like a crochet hook or something to help them weave it in, but you really don't need it. You can use your hands. This is a size 5 bulky yarn, so it'll work. I'm just gonna tuck it under and around, twist it through a few places, bring it under a few things. This is like, there's no rhyme or reason to this. The idea is you just want to kind of tangle it in there a little bit so it doesn't come apart on you, okay? And there I put it through a few different spots. I'm just gonna tie a little knot here. And you'll see once you start tying knots, it's almost hard for you to see. So you know if it's hard for you to see, it's because the yarn blends in so nicely, then nobody else is going to see it if you can't see it this far up close, okay? I'll cut it a little bit shorter, and then I'll just weave this in any which way that I can get it, just so that that last tail end is not cut really close to the knot, okay? Because if you cut your little knot tail too close to the knot, then chances are it will come undone sooner than later on you, okay? And that's good enough for me, all right? So that end is done. If you wanted to do them like that, you could do both. If you wanted to bring them together, you're gonna lay one end there, bring your other end over. And that's why we have this tail left here, because we're gonna use that to sew it together. If you don't wanna have any twists in it, make sure that you lay the scarf out flat, all right? And then we're gonna bring in these two ends. And if you have little bundled up knots like that, it's no big deal. We're going to tie this all up. Okay. So the idea is you're going to bring these two ends together, and you're going to use your thread tail to weave it through and grab the yarn that's on both ends. So again, just put it through wherever you can get it. And you're sewing it, but without a needle or anything. You're going to just kind of whip stitching it through here. So I'll grab a chunk. I can get it under this one. And then I'll come in under on this side. And you can see that we'll start to tie them and bring them close together like this. All right, so once you stitch that up, you'll have your continuous little infinity type scarf here, and I think it's gonna be great for springtime. You can double it up or wear it just continuous long like I'm wearing here. Remember that there's a link in the description box below on where you can find the unique yarn that we're using here. It's called Unique Yarn. And I hope that you all will give this project a try. If you do, remember to take some pictures, upload them to our Facebook page. It's called Crafty Gemini Creates. You can also tag me on social media using the hashtag CGCreates. And remember to subscribe to this channel if you like what you see, so you won't miss out on any of my future video tutorials. Thanks again for watching. Go get your arm knitting on, and I'll see you in the next video.